Alright, welcome to the Crrow Discovery Project. I wanted to run this clip. I stopped into Houston to meet with Houston Skywatch, and I picked this gentleman, and I know he's kind of obscure to some folks. His channel is growing, let's put it that way, but this gentleman is out doing the work. So as I headed into Texas, I had already met with a longtime supporter on the eastern seaboard, and we actually brought him up and talked about how cool it would be to talk to someone who's actually out there doing very difficult work, and I can vouch for that. I do this all the time. There's nothing easy about filming through a telescope hour after hour trying to catch something that might last a few seconds. We decided to do this at NASA at the Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center, which I thought was funny, so I put on a Crrow shirt and headed out to meet Houston Skywatch. He was nice enough to meet me halfway, and also Randy, who has caught the Lunar Wave twice, lives in Houston. Unfortunately, I only had enough time to meet with one person. So the thing about this interview is we did a test on camera, and apparently the cars were all stopped at a traffic light. So I did use a high bypass filter and some other things. You can hear us speaking. There's a little bit of traffic because this is really the only place we had to get the backdrop outside the gates of NASA. So here we go. Alright, this is Crrow777 on the 10,000 mile road trip. I've made a detour into Houston to meet Houston Skywatch. I would have loved to have seen Randy, who's filmed the Lunar Wave twice, but I just simply don't have time. So Houston Skywatch, good to meet you, man. We're here at the Johnson Space Center, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about his experience. It's been, I think, a little over a year, right, that you've been trying to film the Lunar Wave?
Just over a year, yeah. I think it would have been, I think I started October, really officially, with a HD camera. And I moved on to a telescope shortly thereafter, and been filming pretty much nightly ever since.
So cool. So let's start out by talking a little bit about the equipment you're using. Can you tell us what you started shooting with and what you're currently shooting with to try to capture the Lunar Wave?
So I started shooting with just really sort of like a handy cam style camera, which was just a HD, just sort of point and shoot sort of style camera that had quite a bit of zoom on it, and that actually does zoom in quite well on the moon, but it just I didn't get the impression it was enough to actually see the lunar wave. So now what I'm using is a 4.5-inch twin star telescope with a Nikon D5200 camera, and have all that hooked up onto a GPS mount, and that's pretty much
So I asked you that for a specific reason, because so many people ask how they can try to go out and film the lunar wave, and so what you're saying is you're using a 4-inch scope, which puts that in the affordability range for a lot of people. Is that a Dobsonian or a Newtonian style scope?
It's a refractor telescope.
It's a refractor. So the reason I'm asking that is because there is a wide range of scopes, and scopes work really well if they're not that big on lunar work. So can you kind of talk a little bit about what you've had to go through? For a year you've been filming, and I know I made an announcement at the last spring equinox, that the lunar wave would be caught, and it was actually filmed in this city by Randy, who's now filmed it twice. I believe you missed it by a half an hour or something, and I missed it by a couple minutes. Can you kind of speak to what you've had to go through in all this time to try to film the lunar wave?
So I started out basically filming nightly with just a simple point and shoot HD camera for like I said, months at a time, and for several months. I'd say October, November, December. I finally picked up the telescope. It was actually just a huge learning curve, because you're learning the telescope, the camera optics, the GPS mount. All of that just took quite a great deal of time to even just learn how to set all that up. Once I got it running, it was no problem really. I mean, other than just sitting for hours on end outside, just keeping it pointed at the moon
and then doing it that way. So I mean, in Houston, I'm guessing you had nights where you were in the 90s and mosquitoes were eating you.
That's a huge part.
You had to go through all that as well.
A huge part is what I've noticed is because on my clips, most clips of the moon or any sort of astronomy, there's no audio rolling, and so you're not hearing or seeing the heat and the mosquitoes and the bugs biting you, and the scope shaking from slapping mosquitoes off you, and that's really a huge part of it. Just getting through the elements and managing to stay outside and film.
So do you, I mean, have you kept track at all? Do you have any guess even of how many hours you've put in?
Oh, I don't even know.
I mean, certainly it's hundreds at this point.
I'm starting to estimate that it's hundreds, but I'm not sure.
And that's over a year's time. So in a given week, how many nights do you think you're filming? And I'm assuming that you're filming during the lunar cycle, which kind of limits how many nights you can shoot.
Oh yeah. That's another part of it. Is that when I say I film nightly, it's not that I'm out 30 days in a month. It's more of you know, as the moon starts to get about half full, that's when I go ahead and start filming. So on average, with all other obligations, you're looking at 2, 3, 4, 5 days a week, depending on the lunar cycle. If it's you know, like when was that? The time escapes me when it was, but it was recently. I guess on the last capture maybe that I missed. That's really when
right.
I was outside every night.
So I think I just had a capture that I didn't know I had, and that was after the summer solstice in June. I forget the date because it's the last one I did, and it was happening right as I was getting ready to go on the road. But the one you missed was the one that I missed, where Randy in this city, Houston, caught it. And again, Randy, I'm sorry I just didn't have time to come see you, bud, but you're a veteran. You got this thing twice. And Houston Skywatch is the young gun, man. He's the next generation, in my view, of people who can carry this work forward. But, you know, I think you missed that lunar wave by, what was it, like
about 2 hours
time. About 2 hours time.
I had filmed for about 2 hours total, and then I had to go inside, indoors for a couple hours, and then I went back outside and filmed. This is past midnight too, so it's late. I typically wouldn't stay up that late, but I was outside just getting in the footage. Another 2-3 hours in, and then I woke up the next morning, and sure enough, I saw it, and it wasn't even surprising to see that I had missed it, but that it had been captured.
Right, and that was on the tail of the prediction that I made running into the vernal or spring equinox. So in all this time you've been filming, I mean, how much kind of anomalies or objects have you managed to pick up and post on your channel?
Quite a few. I mean, in preparation, when I knew I was going to get together with you, I went back and looked at my old YouTube videos, and I did see there's some birds in there, but there's also some objects that are just clearly space-based from my view.
Describe, like, are they the typical kind of black round things that you see, or what are you picking up here in Houston?
I'm picking up, you do see birds, but those are, to me now, they're just obvious when you see them pass by, but the actual objects themselves are typically, to me, I would describe them as more like just satellites rolling by, because they're typically really quick, they're small, and they just speed by, but you do catch them, and it's very difficult to see them, but when you do, it's pretty exciting, and it's a bit of a rush to see something pass by like that.
after hour of looking at just a moon sitting there doing nothing. So if you had to guess, what is the longest time you've had one of these objects in frame in front of the moon?
Not long. Seconds.
So there it is. And it's funny that you mentioned, I mean, how long were you shooting before you realized how easy it is to understand what a bird or a bat is compared to something interesting?
It probably took at least a few weeks, maybe months, before I really got into it. Really was able to understand and see what goes on up there.
It's funny you should say it, because I shot last night with a Marine Corps buddy of mine that I stayed with in Houston, and we had an onslaught of objects transiting the moon. I called you to ask if you were filming, and I would say 80% of them were birds and bats, but I had a bunch that I've saved that I will review later that are almost certainly objects, but I'll have to review on a bigger monitor. So let me ask you, when you decided you wanted to go out and try to catch the lunar wave, how much help was, like, my channel, how much help to get you going in how to film in these things? How much did you have to figure out on your own? Could I have done a better job of kind of helping people get started, or do you feel like there was help enough to get you going?
I feel like you helped quite a bit. I mean, you have several clips now on YouTube that they pretty much explain, just outright exactly how to get going and, just start filming. And yeah, you've been a huge help. I mean, you were my entire inspiration for starting filming at all. I mean, I wasn't into it before that.
That's completely awesome by me, but at this point, you're filming in HD. Right? And you're filming with a 4-inch scope, which is actually more than enough to get beautiful shots of the moon.
1.5 inch.
And as we meet here, we are less than 30 days from my second prediction of a best chance to catch the lunar wave. which is going to be, what's the equinox? The 23rd in September?
I think so.
I think it's September 23rd, 2015. And again, I've kind of put my neck out on the chopping block. This is all or nothing.
Right.
I'm hoping and praying that someone films the lunar wave and I have a clip up. Will you be shooting in the time that I estimated is our best chance to get a fall lunar wave?
I will absolutely be shooting, if I'm guessing, for about a week in that time frame, because I want to shoot before and after, and it's about a week's time, which you've actually shown on a calendar.
Right.
The particular days that would be expected to witness this lunar wave. It's quite elusive to me. But
well,
still.
I mean, come on, this is the game. The first time I filmed it, I went a year and a half before I saw another lunar wave, and I was taking flack the whole time from people just telling me it was equipment failure.
Right.
You know, and to date, what do we have? It's either 13 or 14 captures by, I believe, 9 people. Is that right? I think that's it.
9 to 12 people around there.
But you know, this city has produced 2 lunar waves from Randy. And it's funny, we're sitting in front of the kind of space agency, and I know you and I kind of have a different opinion of what NASA is about. But having said that, I think there's a good chance we might get a lunar wave this fall, so I'm really hoping you shoot something. But anyhow, I've got to get through the state of Texas, and I've got something like 700 miles because I've gone the longest way possible to get into the saguaros and do some other things, and then some distance tests I have planned. But I want to thank you so much. I know you've got, you know, kids to worry about that are in school and things. Thanks so much for taking time out and driving the distance you did to meet me here halfway at the Space Center. And let me tell you something, man, I'm pulling for you. I really hope you're able to pull this off this September.
I really appreciate it. Greatly appreciate your time, too, coming out to Houston.
All right, my brother, I'll tell you what, we'll kill the camera. I'm going to shoot a couple of these space shuttles and weird planes that we see around here. And my navigator and I are going to be on the road. But again, Houston Skywatch in the city of Houston with Crrow777. And Randy, my brother, I'm sorry, I just did not have time to see more than one person. And in my mind, Houston Skywatch is kind of like the young gun. So when I'm walking with a walker, someone may still be doing this. So there it is. Cheers.
Okay, so thank you again to Houston Skywatch, and I just want to mention one more time that I picked him for the express reason that he is out doing the work, and I knew he'd be shooting during this calendar, which is a prediction I've made. We're in September now, so the 20th through the 30th, with the equinox occurring on the 23rd, is my best guess at our best chance for the lunar wave in the remainder of 2015. I'm predicting that if we shoot in the times where the moon is green in this image, we have a higher than usual opportunity to film the lunar wave. And I'm hoping that many people will be out there doing it. And this played into why I chose Houston Skywatch, because this is not an easy thing to do, and not many people are willing to do it. But moving on, we chose to do this at NASA Space Center for a reason. NASA is pushing giant fraud on this planet, and this place was like a poor man's Disney. It was ridiculous. Houston Skywatch walked up to one of the shuttles and saw that it was simply plywood with shiny paint put over the top. I mean, everything we saw in this place, in my view, was agenda. You couldn't even get into the museum with the moon rocks without sitting through a kind of programming video to prep you to do it. Anyhow, here's a few short clips of the many I took from inside.
This is just awesome. This kind of puts a fine point on everything, doesn't it? Here it is. Let's go see the Star Trek bridge. Close to space as we're ever going to get in the modern day, I think. So I'm guessing this is the Star Trek bridge. Oh, I guess we just get a light show. And there it is. Hollywood is never more than an inch away. It's really kind of dark in here, but there's the Apollo lunar lander. I hope I can brighten this up, but this thing's covered in tinfoil. I'm kidding you not. out this dude. The ISS. There's the highlight of the show. No blueprints exist on this vehicle. Of course, no footage exists. Original footage exists of this. There's a moon rock, right? Oh, here's some more moon rocks. This is a basalt moon rock. This is a Brachia moon rock. This one is a northocite. And of course we have another Brachia moon rock. This looks just like cement. To the naked eye, you would swear that you're looking at a chunk of cement. Here, I'm gonna touch the moon. Let me see here, how do I do it? Oh, there we go, we can touch the moon. Alright, so this is the timeline. Actually, so here, I'll get a better, brighter view of that. Oh, I will in a minute. But anyhow, look at the timeline they give you. Pong is invented. A CAT scan, then they got to talk about the Israeli hostage athletes. It never ends. Yeah, there's a better view of that thing. This is supposed to be 1972.
Janice Voss carried this novel Space during STS 56.
So these last few images kind of sum up just the fraud of NASA in my mind. I mean, here's a place that has claimed to do all these amazing things, taking human beings to the moon, to space, and you come to a place like this, and it's like this low-budget Hollywood with nothing amazing. But look at this. For me, this kind of summed it up. Janet Voss carried this novel from Isaac Asimov into space. She credits science fiction with her path towards becoming an astronaut, which I think truer words were never spoken. As a fitting tribute to science fiction, she read Asimov's Foundation during the free time on her first space flight. Now get this, she read using only light from the Earth. You're damn right, because she was on Earth when she read it. I mean, when you read and look critically at what you're being presented with in this just bizarre, very dimly lit place, it really brings it all home. It was so funny to walk in, and you couldn't go into the museum unless you sat through their kind of very loud programming where they try to wrench your heartstrings with shuttle explosions and all this other stuff to prep you before you can even see supposed moon rocks. The lighting in this place was so dim that it was damn near impossible. Even with a good camera, I have my Nikon in here, and I was doing everything I could to try to get decent video or decent stills. It's just so, the lighting is so low. But this really kind of topped it off for me. As I was cruising through, I looked over and there it is, the Star Trek shuttle. And I thought, that really encapsulates what's going on here. You know, here is NASA claiming that they're doing important things, big things, going to space, discovering planetary things, landing rovers on different worlds, and here's this damn TV prop made out of plywood and shiny paint. And when you read these two little cards that I've captioned here, you can kind of understand that this stuff has no place in a reality-based space program. There is no room for for this kind of television entertainment, which encapsulates what this place was about. Anyhow, thank you again to Houston Skywatch, and I saved this announcement for the end because I figure only my true followers ever make it to the end of a clip, but I'm going to be launching a podcast before long in conjunction with my channel, and it will allow me to fund what I'm doing and allow me to keep shooting. I may base it somewhat on Greg Carlwood's model, though I won't be doing interviews in the same way. But anyhow, there it is, and cheers to Houston.